Therese Skelly, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here with you.
So excited to have you. And where are you?
I'm located in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh my
US.
God, it's so beautiful there. I am actually going to be in Scottsdale in 2 weeks.
No, you're kidding me. Well, you have to
Yes.
let's connect if you have
Yeah.
time. Like, what a crazy world. 2 weeks. Okay. And how do you know about Scottsdale? Like, that's kind of a little bit obscure, right?
There's a conference I'm going to be going to, and I've been to Scottsdale a few times. I've been to Phoenix a few
Okay.
times, and last time when I went, my friend said, "Let's go for dinner in Scottsdale," and I loved it. I thought it was the most beautiful place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, so I will be, and then we'll connect after this. But anyways, let's get started. So, were you born in Scottsdale, or did you move kind of?
Strangely, I'm a Phoenix native. So, Scottsdale, I've always lived in like a 50 mile radius.
Yeah.
I'm one of the strange people that has never left their hometown, so.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. And how did you get started? How did you end up being the Therese we hear about now?
It's kind of an interesting story, Tanvi. So I was a psychotherapist. I have a master's degree in counseling, and I practiced doing therapy for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And one day he's like, well, I want to do something else, but I don't know. And so I did life coaching, which isn't a big jump between therapy and coaching. It's just kind of a little bit of a different focus, but still very relational and helping people. And I had gone to, as a life coach, I'd gone to a networking group. And this was probably, oh my gosh, back in like 2004. And so that networking group, I show up and I say, I'm a coach. And they said, what, tennis or golf? Like nobody even knew of coaching back in the day.
Uh-huh.
And so because I went to the networking group, then they put me on their newsletter list. And there was an ad that came out that said business coaches wanted. And here's what you have to know. I have a criminal justice undergrad and a counseling graduate school degree. I never worked in business. I never read a business book. I never had zero. And so when this ad said business coaches wanted on paper, there's literally no reason that I should have applied for that.
Yeah. And
there was no qualification in me. And it was my soul that guided me to make that decision. And so I filled out this application, and then the next day I'm a business coach. And it was like, oh my, what do I do now? Right. And so just followed what I call divine guidance. And then that one thing changed the whole trajectory of my life. So it was a crazy pivot to be a business coach, but it's been magical.
Wow. It's amazing how I've met a lot of psychologists and people with that background in coaching, but I find that's an advantage.
You would think it's an advantage. When I first started, this was the hard part for me, because I couldn't own my value. And that's one of the things I teach today, because I had a chip on my shoulder. I had, a lot of women come in, especially when you're a service-based, when you're selling yourself as a service-based business, it's like, I have to prove myself, right? And plus I hadn't come through the business space. So I was like, well, I was only a therapist. I'm not enough because I don't know how to do a spreadsheet. I never worked in an MBA program. And so it took me years to really own, which is so crazy, because my clients would say to me, the reason I hired you is because you used to be a therapist. I feel so much safer with you. Yeah. But I didn't own it for years and years. In fact, I used to apologize about it, which, that is so sad. That's why I teach the stuff I teach today, because I know what it feels like to not own the magical parts of you.
And so what changed?
Part of it is the business girlfriends. My girlfriends that would just say, like, what the heck are you doing? Like, there's nobody better at mindset than you are. Like, I'll tell you this, probably in 2008, I put together a mastermind group. There's nothing better to me than having friends that will speak the truth to you. And so I put together this group of like 5 of us, and we flew to Minnesota or something. And we spent the weekend together. And at this time I was called a marketing strategist, and I kind of snuck in the mindset pieces underneath the surface. Right. So I was known as maybe mindset and marketing, but it was safer 10 years ago to lead with marketing. Yeah. And so I had one of my business girlfriends kicked my butt. Basically, she said, you're a good marketer, but stop it. Like, stop it. That is not your gift. That is not your brilliance. Like, literally, there is no better. Like, all of my friends come to me for this. Like, the top internet people, they all come to me for the mindset piece of it. And they basically kicked my ass. I mean, that's what it was. They just were like, stop. And so I had to face all my fears of like, well, marketing sells. And especially as I've moved even farther, temping now, I do more energy and healing and less, strategy.
Mhm.
It's been the journey of like, yeah, I know that sells and that's easier to talk about market, but I really want to do this. I want to follow my gifts and my soul's work. And so it's been hard.
Yeah. I love what you just say, Therese, because I basically went through that journey. I was in real estate before,
Uh-huh.
and everybody was like, what, are you crazy? Real estate, that's where the money is.
Like
But
stay there.
I felt pulled to women empowerment. And I'm like, I just want to help women in Africa. I don't care about the money right now. I just want to
Exactly.
help women in Africa. And when you follow your soul, I believe magic happens. And so you
Absolutely.
followed your soul, and
Mhm.
eventually you are now led into the space of healing and inner healing and energy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I
So
love you. I love your story though. I really believe for me,
mhm,
what I say is like my business is like my ministry, right? Like, and I believe that if you are open to that kind of belief system, it's like you almost don't have a choice. It like keeps pushing you and pulling you forward. And if you try to get away from it, like it doesn't work so much. And so for me, there has never been another choice, even though it's been hard, even though I had went through a bankruptcy. I had lost everything because I wouldn't just get a job and do different things. I'm like, no, this is my path, and I have to be so true and so loyal. And so it sounds like you're a soul sister in this one. Like if you
yeah,
followed that as
exactly.
well, and it's a harder journey,
It
and
is. It
it's
is.
the more rewarding journey at the end of the day,
Yes, I
right? You're on
agree.
purpose.
I
Yeah.
totally agree. So what made you decide to just work with women instead of men?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm actually really good with men. There's like this kick-ass part of me, and I used to have a lot of male clients, and I do really, really good with men
Mhm.
because I can be a really straight shooter, and men like men like when you can get in their face a little bit.
Mhm.
But what was happening, because I lead a lot of retreats, and I love intimacy, I love small groups, and there is just something that happens when women get together and get real. And if there was a man in the room, again, there's no disrespect to men.
Yeah.
There are unique wounds and unique challenges to women there's just to women. Like a
Mm.
man hasn't been told to dial it down. A man hasn't
Mm.
been told you're too much.
Yeah.
Just be nice.
Slow
Just get
down.
along.
Yeah.
So there are unique things that only women have had to battle and overcome, that if it was a mixed gender thing, and I feel bad, I do, I feel like, like I can help men, and I still do if men clients find me,
Yeah.
but all my group work, I want to create a sisterhood. I want to create a community where women no longer feel alone, when they don't feel like, oh my God, is it just me? What's wrong with me? So that's the why.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about building a business as a woman, and incorporating that energy for you, the feminine energy and those emotions. How do you help women do that? How do you kind of mentor
Yeah.
your
Yeah,
gals to that? Mhm.
that's such a great question. And so I've been in this industry for 15 years. And when I started, it was very much male dominated,
Oh yeah.
right? And so when I started, I did it like I had been seeing the demonstrations, right? So at the time, I had younger children, and I just worked all night and all day. I never took time off. I neglected them basically. And I had male coaches that would say, well, just ignore your kids and just seriously
You have to
ignore your
hustle.
children and just work, right? and so my first few years were just really out of balance. And when I finally built a six-figure business, I was so proud of that. But at the end of the day, it was like, this thing's killing me. I hate it. Like, I suck as a mom. It's affecting my relationships. My adrenals are burned out. So what I went through was the understanding that, like, wait a minute, I'm not wired for this. And I don't think we as women are. And there really is the feminine energy is way more receptive. The masculine energy is just like, go out and get it, go hunt for it, be, be that guy,
Hustle. Mhm.
basically. And again, it's not a gender thing. And so if you're this, it's not, like I have a lot of masculine energy. Some men have a lot of feminine energy, and that's not gender. That's just the way it goes. And so what I discovered is the feminine energy is about waiting for information. And so when I work with my clients is like, where are you sourcing your information? Because what would happen to me is I go on these I'd have my mentors or something, and they create like, here's your 6-figure revenue plan, which I'm like, wah, yeah, whatever, but at the time I was like, oh, yay, here's my whole revenue plan, my marketing plan. And then 2 months later, I would sit it and my body would go, ugh, that feels horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the more masculine or male dominated way, you follow the money, you follow what's logical, you follow the revenue plan, you map everything out and you follow it. But the feminine way is you listen to your body, listen to your energy.
Mm-hmm.
And what also happened to me is I've had a number of deaths. My kid's dad died a couple of years ago, and it just blew us out of the water. And so then I became unable to do anything other than take care of my kids and just manage our grief, right? And so when you have life stuff happening, there are seasons, right? So sometimes it's like, this is not the season of generativity for me. This is a season of being inward. This is a season of tending to my family. And so what I understood is it's not just all make a plan your work. It's more about, what are you capable of with your energy? What does your body need? What is your soul calling out for? And just listening so exquisitely to what's inside and then only acting on that. And sometimes it's crazy illogical because I've had
amazing when you do that, that the money follows.
Money starts flowing, and also your energy is more aligned with it. Because I've actually had things where I'll have a launch all set and my team is like, yeah. And then 3 days before I'm like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Wow.
Because it's like, wait, that's out of alignment, or that price point's out of alignment, or the people I'm working with. And so it's not using your brain or following revenue to source your wisdom and your guidance. It's like sourcing from inside.
Yeah, sourcing from inside. And you said something which was very interesting. For you, it was a trigger. Was it a trigger, the death of your ex-husband or partner? Was it a trigger to start doing this, or there was another trigger which really helped you? I think there's a trigger which always happens with that.
That's a great question. Yeah. So like year and a half before he died, my mom also died suddenly, and then there was another death, and then 2 other relationships. So it's like, I don't know if anybody has had the experience of just letting grief, like it's like a tsunami that just wipes you out, right? And from that place, it's just kind of like, oh, hell no, right? I woke up, and in fact, part of my brand is what I call being fiercely here.
Yeah.
Because when you have lost everything, there is no more, oh, I don't want somebody to be upset with me. Oh, when you realize how short life is and how much just things can change in a second, I don't waste a minute on not speaking my truth. I don't tolerate bullshit, basically. You know what I mean? It's just like, so I literally emerged like kind of the phoenix bird. I emerged like what I call fiercely here. And that's what I want for my women. It's just like, don't wait till somebody dies to stop being a caretaker. You know what I mean? Like, live now, live bold now, be really fiercely here. And so, yes, that was absolutely a trigger. Thank you for asking that.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for sharing that. And so I want to talk about Fiercely AF, which is the Facebook you have. And let's talk about that. So yes, there is that energy and that fierce momentum which people have to go. But what really was the trigger for you starting this group? And what can our listeners, if they join this group,
this is so funny. Yeah, I know. Okay, so a year ago, I made a group called Fiercely Here with Therese Skelly. And I wrote a manifesto, and my manifesto is brilliant. It literally is the work that emerged from my journey. And for example, you know this, Henry. Like a lot of women, they walk into a room and they drop into, is it okay if I be here? Right? Like, so to me, being fiercely here means like you are your authority, and you don't have to ask for permission, and you don't have to say, is it okay if I do this? And it's like you are your own fierce agent. And what's weird is the word fierce has some negative connotations, because most people think aggressive, and it's not aggressive or bitchy. It's just like, oh, I'm here. Oh yeah. Like just owning your space. Right. So a year ago, I did this group called Fiercely Here with Therese Skelly. Mm-hmm. And then what started happening is, I don't know, I'm in this new relationship, and I'm kind of like really filled up with my own sense of self. I got this wonderful man in my life, and I'm feeling so empowered in my own being. And it kind of shifted into fierce AF, and we're not going to say what the AF means, but I'm just like, oh, it's a whole different thing. And so I closed the other group, just started a Fierce AF group, and just the AF. And again, I'm not trying to be vulgar, but there's something like, oh, you want to be fierce, but it's like AF.
Yes.
It's like with super champions, it's literally, it's called me to a different level of teaching. I just did a teaching about boundaries in there yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am so much more like engaged. I'm like, oh yeah, like not on my watch. Nobody's going to do this on my watch. So in the group, it's basically, I want women to show up and be fiercely here. I want you, if you're watching this, to show, because this is where I'm going to come in and I'm going to support you, and you can ask questions, and I have monthly coaching calls where I'm doing training. So if you want to be a little more fierce in your life, if you want to not censor yourself and not people please and not worry about what other people are thinking of you and have boundaries and like really unleash yourself, that's my purpose.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because you just said because for me, I feel like it comes natural not to care what everybody else thinks.
You are blessed, sister, because that is not natural for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think for me it came natural because of my background in my upbringing. But for a lot of people, it's hard, especially as women, because naturally women, we are people pleasers. Yeah. And we just want to make everybody happy. And as you're saying about this formula, we just want to follow the formula. We don't want to bother anybody. And yes, it doesn't work, even if it's killing our spirit and making us lose sleep. We just do it. But I want to talk about that for a second, because it's not easy as a woman trying to move from that position of, oh, yeah, I want to make everybody happy, to, you know what? I don't care. I don't give it.
Absolutely.
I don't and what everybody is saying. How do you do that? Like, is there a step-by-step system you teach?
That is such a great question, because that, I think, your experience is not the norm. Most women, especially if you're over 40, probably, culturally, we didn't have role models. Like the younger generation, I always say, has Oprah. I didn't get Oprah, I'm older. So I had June Cleaver, I had the epitome of the codependent, take care of everybody, be selfless. And so I hope the younger generation has more powerful women leaders that can make their own money and be beautiful demonstrations of what woman power looks like, as opposed to pretending to be a man in the world, right? So the how is, well, number one, you decide. I don't think anything starts until you make a decision. So you notice like, and sometimes the decision comes when you look at the cost. Yeah. Right. So like, what's it costing you? Because there is the, like, well, I'll give you a story. Somebody once recently said to me, you have the most pure heart of anybody I ever have known. Mm-hmm. And my first thought was, yeah, but I'm kind of an asshole sometimes too. and I thought, that's so interesting, because they're both, and I don't mean that I'm an asshole, but what I mean is I've got really good boundaries. I speak the truth. I don't do what I don't want, But it's interesting when somebody said I have a pure heart. My pushback was, oh, but I'm not pushy and pushover and soft and take a bunch of crap. Isn't that interesting that I initially went like, oh, that's what that means to be a pure-hearted person, as opposed to, I can be both. I can be really fiercely here. I'm a fierce mama. I'm a stand for my clients and my people, and I can have a beautiful, pure heart. But even me, all this work, I'm like, whoa. So what does it mean to not be in the societal and the cultural norms of caretaking? So I would have you look at, is there a cost to what you're doing? Because when you have awareness, you then have choice. I used to be a former therapist, and I really love to make the unconscious conscious for people. And so most of us really live unconsciously. We just like, well, doesn't everybody do this? This isn't how it's always been, right? And so you really want to go, okay, this, like I just said yes when I really want to say no. What's that costing me? Or I really want to say yes to that, but I'm afraid they'll reject me. Or I'm afraid, like, if I stop doing that, then I'll be alone. Or they're going to think, the dreaded B word. Oh my God, they're going to think I'm a bitch if I don't do that, right? So you want to look at, like, just get real with yourself first. So you get that, and then you decide no more. Now, what's going to happen, your brain is not your friend, right? So you're going to hear, I call them gremlins, those little thoughts that like, oh my God, what are people going to think of you? Like your parents are going to be so disappointed.
Exactly.
Nobody in your
You're
family
gonna
does
have
it.
enemies.
There we go. Yeah. And so when you decide, when you start moving towards it, everything that is unlike that has to be revealed. I call that good, right? So when my clients come to me going, I'm like, woohoo, this is a good thing because now you know what's underneath. Like all the resistance then can pop in, and then you can go, okay, that's not true. Is it really true everybody's going to hate me? Is it really true that I'll lose all my friends? And sometimes they have to get to the point of like, but that's okay. Even if that would happen, I don't think it's true, but even if it's happened, I got to choose me. So you have to be so, like for lots of women, we have children, and I always say, would you talk to your beautiful child this way? Would you subject your child to this level of disregard or disrespect? Like most of us are fierce for our children. We would fight for them. We would never put them in harm's way. And so that's one way. If I was my little child, would I say these things? Would I subject them? Why are you putting them with somebody that's like putting them down? Like, why in the world would you put a child with somebody that says, God, you're so stupid and you're going to really wear that? You know what I mean? And so it's just taking the little steps, noticing the voices, but then mostly find somebody or people that can see your greatness, can call you out. Like you're bigger than, come on, you don't deserve that. You can do it. You could like with that. I think it really does take a village, right? We cannot do this on our own. It's so difficult because there's so many patterns that are going to pull you back. You really want to find people that are just like your cheerleaders and your champions. And you got it, you got it, you got it, you got it, you got it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Wow, this is amazing. This has been amazing because I think everybody needs a cheerleader in us and everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs a mentor. But let's talk about your retreats.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do retreats, and can you share a little bit more about that?
Oh my gosh. I love going deep, Tembi. I'm not a person that wants to just skim the surface of life. so what's really amazing when I do a retreat, it really is like building your business from the inside out. Mm-hmm. And so we look at, what is it that you desire? And my process is, I have this 3-step process: align, clear, and embody. Mm-hmm. And so the work is to get you aligned with your soul's vision. Like, what's the thing that you just would love, and you haven't given yourself permission for, or you haven't even been able to like consider that it could happen, right? Mm-hmm. And then, because I have a lot of tools, then I like to clear any energy that is blocking that. And very often it could be family influences, there's limiting beliefs, it's our history, it's our culture, it's our gender, it's our race, there's all kinds of stuff that will interfere with you getting that. And then the third phase is, how do you embody that? Yeah. It means, who do you have to be, right?
And this happened in Phoenix?
I have done retreats in Phoenix. Sometimes, do you know Sedona? Sometimes I take my people to Sedona. You got to go to Sedona if you're in.
I've never been. I've never been. I have a friend who lives in Sedona, and she says I have to get there. And I love that. There's something there's some energy to Phoenix, to basically Arizona as a state. Yeah. There's some different energy there. Like when you go to, I don't know what it is, but there's a different energy to it and a different feel to it. So when I asked you do this in Phoenix, because I feel like just like the Phoenix Rising Star, like it's like you are really, something changes in you when you're in.
So cool. I love that, because I've heard people talk about Sedona that way, but I've never talked about Phoenix that way. So that's really cool. I love that perspective.
Yeah. So when you say that you do this in Phoenix, I was like, I love that. I love that. Okay, so let's wrap this up. So somebody's listening today and they're maybe struggling and they've understood everything you've said, and they just say, I just need 3 tips. 3 tips I can take today with me and I can use and just start soaring like Therese.
3 tips. Let me see. I think so here's one tip. Mm-hmm. If it is in you to do, the way must be shown. And so you don't want to just follow some guru's blueprint, mm-hmm. because that might not be for you. So you really want to, like, people just like, they have a dream and then they talk themselves out of it. And so if there's a dream, as obscure as it is, as crazy as it sounds, what I say is, imagine if it were inevitable. Like, just imagine, like when I work with my clients, it's not like, well, maybe. It's like, no, no, no. Be in the energy of it is inevitable. Like, that's how I got through. Again, I got through a lot of stuff, bankruptcy, losses of lots of stuff. And I just knew that it was inevitable. Like, this is mine. And so if you just make it yours, it's like God, the universe, life, then we'll fill in the rest. But until you say, I'm a 100%, like I literally say to my clients, like, put a ring on it. You gotta commit to the level of.
You still here, Therese?
There is no plan B. This is mine. So that's tip going forward. And then all of a sudden something happens, or they hear like, oh, nobody's going to buy, or I don't know, and then they just collapse. There's this pattern of stop start that I see. And so when that occurs, I go, oh, you've got an unconscious block there. Something's going on. So you want to watch the thoughts. And here's a great little analogy. Surprisingly, my dog has not barked in this podcast because she barks through every podcast I ever do, every time. But imagine if you're a dog person and somebody rings the doorbell, dog does what? Barks. Because the dog is wired to alert, right? And your brain is actually wired to alert you because, think of cave days, right? Like when there were literally things jumping out, your brain's biological imperative is to show you potential danger. And so Tim, if I gave you the greatest plan, like, here, you're going to up level, you could, probably not you, but a lot of people, I give these great plans too. The minute they start moving into it, all of a sudden the little thoughts start going, oh my God, this is going to take up so much time. You're not going to be able to do this. Somebody else has already done it. Blah, 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 blah. So if you can just imagine like a little barking dog, because when my dog barks, I just go, shh, I got it, go lay down. And so if those little thoughts are barking dogs, you can go, oh, how? And you can like pet them, right? You can't see me on audio, but I'm petting my little dog hand. I'm like, oh, shh, you're so cute. Oh, you're so adorable. Shh, I got it, go lay down. And so that's one way, like that's one of my top teachings, because people just go, oh, psh. So that will prevent you from collapsing into, but my thoughts are telling me, or I have fear, right? So that's tip 2. Tip 3, and this is a huge one, very often the thoughts, the energy, the beliefs, the limits we are carrying are not even our own. So I am of Irish heritage, and my Irish ancestors had a lot of trauma. There was the potato famine, there was a lot of suffering and hardship. And so I have discovered that I actually brought in that trauma with my DNA. There's a whole field called epigenetics that they're discovering. We don't just bring in like, oh, you've got your mother's eyes and your father's nose, and we also literally bring in through our DNA the trauma of our ancestors. And so very often when we have feelings or an overreaction or we struggle, you literally, if you're intuitive, let's just ask your body, just say, is this mine? Yes or no. So if I say to somebody, like I do a lot of work with limiting beliefs. So say somebody says, God, I don't know if I can ever earn that much money. Like nobody in my family ever has earned that much money. And I say, close your eyes, ask your body, tune in. Is that belief mine? Yes or no? And most of the time, like 95% of the time, it's not even yours. It belongs to somebody else. Now the work I do is I can help you clear it and move it and all that, but you can do a lot of this on your own. And if it's not yours, you simply say, return to sender with consciousness, just not mine.
Oh
because
my God.
The work again is to make the unconscious conscious. And so this way people are like, oh my God. Usually when people work with me, their response is always, I feel so much lighter. Oh my God, I feel so much lighter. Yeah, because you're not carrying crap from other people, right? So when you free yourself, then you get like, oh, what would I do? And what would I prefer instead? So those are 3 quick tips.
I love them. I love all of them. Oh my goodness, so excited. And so how can we connect with you? How can our audience and listeners connect with you?
Oh my
God. This was amazing.
Thank you, Tammy. So my website is thereseskelly.com. I have to warn you, I'm rebranding, so it's kind of in between, but you get to see stuff there. But go on Facebook. Seriously, if you want to find me, Therese Skelly, and if you want to go Fierce AF, the Fierce AF Women in Business Community with Therese Skelly. that's when you will get the most of me, because that I'm really active in that Facebook group, and you'll get to interact with me, and I can answer your questions and give you some training there. So I'm really excited about that.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor having you here. We'll put all the links below in the show notes for everybody listening. You can just get them on our website and in the show notes. But thank you so much for being here, Therese.
It was a delight. Thank you.